Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Quick Ball Builds, where we try to make quick Pokémon TCG decks out of random stuff like a set amount of packs, sealed products, cards, etc. We changed the name of the series from Budget Building because even though we do make budget builds sometimes, not everything we build is entirely meant to be built on a budget, but everything we build is quick, simple, and very fun, hence the name Quick Ball Builds. Today, my friend Joel and I will be doing a draft tournament with random bulk at one of our local game stores. How this is going to work is we'll both get 10 minutes to look through bulk cards at the store and then make a 40 card deck out of what we can find, and then we'll do a best of 3 battle with the decks we build. The first thing we did is we decided what type we would theme our decks around. I picked the water type while Joel would pick psychic. I was the first one to build my deck. As soon as the time started, I immediately grabbed a bunch of cards from the water section and started seeing what I could use to make a deck out of. As you know, a deck consists of attackers, a draw engine, and energy acceleration. I found a bunch of these Oshawott and Dewott cards that could be useful as attackers. They're not the strongest Pokemon out there, but there were quite a lot of them in the bulk box, so I decided to run a 3-2 line of Oshawott and Dewott. I also had a 1-1 Kingler line as a backup attacker, along with this Cramorant for bench sniping. I also decided to run 2 of these Quillfish, which can poison my opponent if they attack it, and it also has an attack that does like 70 damage for 1 energy if my opponent is poisoned. Combining this with Atticus allows me to have an alternate line of play, and even have an extra draw supporter for the situation, if needed. For the draw engine, I found some useful water Pokemon I could use, like this Wishy-Washy, which had an attack for 1 energy that allows you to shuffle your hand into your deck and then draw 8 cards. This is really useful because you only need 1 energy for it, and it's useful if you have a bad hand and want to get a new one, or even just to see more cards. I also found this Delibird card that has an attack for 1 energy that reads, flip a coin until you get tails, and for each heads, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. This will be useful if we need to get a specific card to complete a combo or attack or something. I also have this Love Disc card that allows me to search for 2 supporter cards, and this Wingull that allows me to draw 1 card, which can be useful if I'm in a pinch. Finally, in terms of energy acceleration, I have this Cryogonal card that allows me to look at the top 6 cards of my deck and attach any number of energy cards I find there to my Pokemon, which is very useful for just 1 energy cost. Now moving on to trainers. I didn't have much time to pick a lot of trainers, but I managed to pick a few that would be extremely helpful, such as 2 Artisan to search for basics, and 4 Great Balls to dig for evolutions. We also have Cycling Road, How, and Daisy's Help for some extra draw support, as well as Atticus for when our opponent is poisoned by Quillfish. We also have 1 Colress's Tenacity to search for our Stadium and 1 Water Energy, a Switch to use as a pivot, a Leftovers to heal, 1 Gust of Wind, and a Practice Studio so that we can deal 10 more damage with our Stage 1 Pokemon. And we're finishing off the list with 10 Water Energy for a total of 40 cards. Next, it was Joel's turn to make his deck. He found some really cool Psychic Pokemon for his deck, including 3 of these Moonwatching Party Clefairy. These little guys are really cool because they have built-in energy acceleration to all benched Clefairy in the form of their ability. He also found a Dusclops and some accompanying Duskull too, one of which has an ability that allows you to search for the Dusclops and evolve it, which is really strong. He even had a Refinement Curlier for his draw engine, and a Mirage Step Curlier to get out the Refinement one. At this point, I was starting to get a bit worried. The Pokemon in Joel's deck were miles better than mine, and he had a lot of draw power and energy acceleration too. He even found a Cleffa for some extra draw support as well. However, there was one thing that could save me. Joel ended up losing track of time while he was building his deck, and that meant that he didn't have enough time to add enough trainer cards and ended up just adding 2 Pokemon Fan Club cards. This means that his consistency would be quite a bit worse, and that could be my saving grace to winning the battle. And here's Joel's final 40 card deck. Now it's time to start the game. We're going to be doing a best of 3 with standard rules, and we'll only be using 4 prize cards instead of the usual 6, since our decks only have 40 cards. Game 1 starts, and I begin with Wishy-Washy, and Joel begins with Clefairy. Not the Moonwatching one though. This one has an attack that allows you to search for 3 Clefairy and bench them. One thing that was actually extremely prevalent in my deck was a card that I just thought might be cool to add, but ended up being the backbone of what made my deck good, and that card was Practice Studio. Dewott's attack does 50 damage, but with Practice Studio in play it does 60. Combined with the fact that Joel had no Stadium bumps of his own, it meant that once Practice Studio was in play, I could one-hit KO his Clefairy and his Duskull, which only had 60 HP. In fact, most of his Pokemon had 60 HP or less, so that made it so much more convenient and easy to take knockouts. Plus, Dewat's first attack does 20 damage for 1 energy, which turns into 30 with Practice Studio, meaning I could use this attack to knock out Cleffa, which I managed to do this game, eventually winning me the game. Game 2 went quite well in Joel's favour this time. He managed to start with a full bench, and managed to use his Dusclops' Curse Blast on turn 2. Eventually, I fell behind in the prize race since I took too long to set up energy on my Dewat, and that allowed him to win the game, since he had 2 Clefairy powered up and ready to attack. Plus, I also flipped Tails on Delibird's attack, which meant that I couldn't get a Gust of Wind to stall or take a knockout. Game 3 was where Joel's lack of consistency cards and trainers really hurt him, as on turn 1, he benched a Duskull and then had to draw Attach Pass. Twice. Meanwhile, I was able to get some energy onto my Oshawott and then evolve to Dewat to attack. Plus, I even top-decked the Practice Studio, which made it so that I could easily win Game 3 and win the set. Oh, what do you know? I top-decked the Funny Stadium!
I was hoping you didn't get that.
I'm grateful.
Oh my god, I'm cooked!
But all in all, it was a lot of fun to try and build a deck using bulk in just 10 minutes. Maybe we could have tried out more intricate strategies if we had more time to build a deck, but I think the limitation was what made it more enjoyable, and forced us to get creative when building under a time limit. But otherwise, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Quick Ball Builds. Thank you for watching.